Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Christy Lynn, and I know this video is so long overdue. Today I am going to finally be giving an update on my chronic fatigue syndrome and talking a bit about POTS and how things have been going since my last update and especially since becoming a new mom. So like I said, I know this is overdue. I know a large majority, or at least a large proportion of my subscribers came from my videos on chronic fatigue syndrome, and I know that y'all are wanting an update and you've been asking for an update for a while now. And I know this because you will comment on my normal videos, my normal content on my channel, and ask how it's going or if I have any updates. So I just wanted to finally come on here and give an update and talk about how things have been going, why I haven't done an update in a while, and what's new. So without talking further, let's go ahead and get started. Oh, I do want to note, if you can kind of hear some noise in the background, it's because both my husband and my baby are currently sleeping. My husband's on the night shift, so he's got his noise machine going, and then I've got the sound machine going for the baby as well. So there's a little bit of background noise, so sorry about that. Hopefully it's not too noticeable or too irritating. So I wrote up a bunch of notes for today's video the other night, and then I must have fallen asleep before saving it and lost it all. So I'm a bit upset about that, but I tried to jot down everything I could remember from what I was thinking about sharing. So yeah, that's a little frustrating, but anyways, let's go ahead and just get started. First of all, wanted to kind of talk about why I haven't updated for a while on my chronic fatigue, and mainly that's due to a couple reasons. One is I kind of felt like I just didn't have any new information to share, and so I didn't feel like there was a purpose in a new video, because the videos I'd done previously kind of covered everything that I had found so far. And then the second reason is, since becoming a mom, yes, that stuff has kind of just taken the back burner as far as my research and trying to figure out how to get to the bottom of what's causing my chronic fatigue syndrome, as well as my POTS syndrome or POTS symptoms. But yeah, it's taken the back burner, but also it was kind of getting confusing. I mean, as a new mom, you're so sleep deprived, you've definitely got fatigue, and so it was a little confusing kind of differentiating between what is just motherhood fatigue and what could be the actual chronic fatigue syndrome. So just kind of hard to figure out, if I was still suffering from chronic fatigue or if it was just motherhood in general. So that's kind of the reasoning. But so just to update you, the last video I talked about how taking these two supplements or vitamins, zinc and B6, were significantly helping me and my fatigue and just overall well-being. And nothing has, well, I shouldn't say nothing has changed, but as far as supplements and vitamins go, I haven't really changed anything up since then. Honestly, when I started on the zinc and the B6, I felt so much better that I really didn't look back, and I really, well, I got pregnant and I just kind of didn't think too much about it anymore. Plus I came home full-time. I was working full-time, so it was so much more noticeable when I was working just how exhausted and zombie-like that I was. And once I came home full-time, it just, I could rest when I needed to, and it just wasn't as noticeable because I wasn't having to push myself so hard to get through the day anymore. Yeah, so but when I became pregnant, I kind of tapered off on the zinc and B6, at least the high levels that I was taking, because just to be cautious, didn't want to do anything to harm my baby. But now that I'm 6 months postpartum, I'm going to start those things back up again. And I want to talk about one other thing I'm going to be trying as far as supplements go, and then later I'm going to get into some more practical things that I'm doing to help my fatigue and just mental exhaustion and all of that stuff. So a couple of you all have commented on my videos and let me know that you have significantly improved, whether it's your POTS syndrome symptoms or your fatigue symptoms, with taking a different form of B1 than I was taking. So I was taking, I actually don't know how you pronounce this. I think it's like benfotiamine. I'm probably saying that entirely wrong. But anyway, it was the form of B1 that I was taking. It actually made me quite sick, and I really probably didn't give it good enough of a chance. But someone was saying, no, you need to take this other form. It's this other brand. I think it's called L-thiamine or allithiamine. I will link it below the one that I've been told about. I haven't tried it yet, I haven't even ordered it yet, but it is on my to-do list. I wanted to get that ordered, and I do want to try because those of you who commented said that you actually like completely sent your POTS into remission or cured it and no longer had POTS syndrome. Now, there was just a couple of you that mentioned that, but it sounded promising. There's not many people that I've heard that have made a big difference in their POTS syndrome. So, of course, along with POTS, which is kind of like a circulation issue, I'm sure if you're here, you already know what POTS is and what chronic fatigue syndrome is all about, but it could cause fatigue, but I do also believe chronic fatigue syndrome is not the sickness in of itself, but we've talked about this, but how it's like a symptom of something bigger going on. So it could be POTS, it could be another illness that you haven't figured out yet, it could be your thyroid. Like, there's so many things that can cause fatigue. So chronic fatigue syndrome, I have had it for probably now, I've kind of lost count. I'm thinking now 12 plus years, and it's had its moments of being just unbearable to being almost not noticeable. So it kind of goes back and forth. So anyways, as far as supplements go, that's what I'm doing. And oh, I'm also taking my prenatal vitamin still, and I'm taking my homocysteine supreme vitamin, which I've talked about before. That is a very strong B complex. So, and then I'm taking a omega-3 and a probiotic. So I'll link everything that I'm on below in the description, as well as the form of B1 that I'm wanting to try. So I'm not sure when exactly I'll get around to trying it, but I did want to pass on that information because it did sound very promising. Alright, I don't want this video to be extremely long, so let me just go ahead and jump forward into just more like practical lifestyle things that I'm doing to combat the fatigue since becoming a mom. That's a mouthful. But anyways, so yeah, like I said, it's kind of confusing. What is chronic fatigue syndrome? What is just sleep deprivation? But either way, I don't want to live like that forever. I know being a mom, you're going to have broken sleep to a degree, but I think there's things that we can do to kind of combat that and kind of just make our days as easy as possible. So let's talk about that. So since becoming a mother, and even before that, especially with chronic fatigue syndrome, a big challenge for me has been, I'm just going to call it the upkeep challenge. And I'm talking specifically about my home. Taking care of your home, cleaning, organizing, keeping it tidy, all of that stuff can be really challenging if you are super fatigued, which I'm sure most of you watching this already know, and that's why you're here. But in addition to that, I've never been a very good routines person. Sticking to a routine, I've just never really had routines in my life, and so I feel like I'm having to learn how to follow good routines for the first time in my life, and especially since becoming a mother, because babies really thrive on routines. So it's kind of thankfully kind of forced me into a routine, and I've realized as my baby's thriving on a good routine that I'm doing better on a routine, but also that I want to also create other routines in my life to make my life easier. So anyways, all that to say, homemaking and upkeeping the house is a challenge when one, you're not good or used to having, you know, consistent routines, and two, when you are chronically fatigued for the last 12 plus years of your life. It's hard, as I'm sure most of you know. So out of desperation, you know, I have tried a lot of different things, but what I've settled on is minimalism. I truly believe if I have less to take care of, then I won't have to spend as much time taking care of the things I own. And everything that you own, everything that's in your home, is something you have to take care of. So every time you take something into your house, it's something that you are agreeing to take care of. Otherwise, it's going to be sitting there reminding you that you're not taking care of it. So a book that I recommend, my husband and I went through this as an audiobook recently, is called Goodbye Things. And I forget the author's name, but I'm going to link it below. And this had a great impact on us and really helped motivate us to get rid of more stuff. And it's like, you know, peeling back layers of an onion when you're trying to downsize and minimize. So I mean, we're barely making a dent here, but we're making progress, and every day I'm working a little bit more towards it. But basically, this book talks about what's called the silent to-do list, and this really resonates with me because the silent to-do list is like, you look around your home, everything you own is speaking to you, whether positively or negatively. Everything has a voice, everything is speaking to you, whether you realize it or not. If you have a lot of clutter or you just have a lot of belongings, things you don't need, when you're panning the room, there are all these voices speaking to you. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but obviously, you know, you can't really hear them, but you know, you're seeing all your belongings, whether it's subconsciously or not. You're feeling the impact of either positive or negative. So if you're seeing things you love, you're feeling that positivity. But if you're seeing things that you might have, you might be neglecting a little bit, or maybe you're feeling guilt over spending the money and not using it. Maybe it's clothing that doesn't fit you anymore and you're just feeling guilty for, well, just how you know, if you've gained weight or whatever it is, you know, you might be feeling guilty about it, just looking at them. And that's what I'm talking about. Those are the negative voices. And, or maybe, you know, you're holding on to too many things because you did spend the money on them. You can't let them go because you're hoping you'll use them one day so you won't feel as guilty about it. But all of these things are constantly like speaking to you, like, why aren't you using me? Why are you neglecting me? Why aren't you taking care of me? Why aren't you cleaning me? So if you have a lot of that, it might be time to minimize. And that is what I realized, because when you are chronically fatigued, you don't need anything else taking up brain space. When you have chronic fatigue, you don't need anything else taking up brain space, right? You need just peace, and you want to be able to come home to a peaceful environment and not feel like you're looking around and everything is a to-do. So that is just mentally exhausting, and that's what I was finding, is I just felt like I couldn't find peace in my home, and everything, you know, I just couldn't relax, and I have the hardest time just shutting off my brain and just relaxing, you know, whether it's, you know, playing Xbox with my husband or just being able to fully just live in the moment. I was having a hard time, and I still am, because we're not through this yet, but just being able to shut that side of my brain off of all the to-dos that I have. And now being a mother on top of it, your to-do list is even bigger. So what can I get rid of to make my life easier? What can I live without to make my space more positive? So minimalism, that is my solution to the upkeep challenge. And that's what I'm working on every day. So that might not be a vitamin or a pill, but I do believe that this is going to have a huge impact on my fatigue. And hopefully it can help you too if you're looking for some practical things you can start today, because honestly, if you just start downsizing, getting rid of your things, you already just feel so much lighter with every box that you donate or get rid of. So again, just to summarize, everything in your home, everything in your space is speaking to you either positively or negatively, and lots of clutter equals lots of negative. Okay, so this last thing I want to talk about is the mental exhaustion. I know we all feel it with chronic fatigue, but the mental exhaustion specifically that comes from overthinking, overanalyzing, or even perfectionism. Those are all things that I definitely deal with, or anxiety, for example. So what am I doing to combat those things? Well, it kind of ties into minimalism a little bit, but I'm just trying to think less. I know that sounds really weird, but if you're an overthinker, you'll probably get it. Yeah, I just want to think less. I want my brain to feel less full, if that makes sense. And so another book recommendation, I probably shouldn't recommend this yet because I'm only like 3 chapters in, but it's a book called The Lazy Genius Way. And what it's all about, from what I've gathered so far, is you need to be lazy about the things that don't really matter to you, and genius, or only caring about the things that really do matter to you. So I guess, do less of what doesn't matter and more of what does. Like, it sounds kind of obvious, but I still recommend give this book a listen, because so far, like, even just the first chapter, honestly has had the biggest impact. And the first chapter is all about decide once. Yeah, that's what it's called. So this idea that you decide once about as many decisions as you can, so that you don't have to keep thinking about it. So for example, what are things in your life that you kind of have to deal with over and over and over again? What are some things that you have to do over and over and over again that are taking a lot of brain power, just having to make tiny decisions over and over again about these same things that you could just decide once? Basically create a, well, I'm drawing a blank on what I want to say, but what I'm kind of trying to say is, like, create like a policy for yourself, like a life policy. You know how at work you might have work procedures, and you know if these events happen, you're going to do these things. So kind of do the same thing for your life. Have a life policy. I don't know why I can't think of what I'm trying to say, but basically, for instance, if you're a mom or anybody and meals are a big issue for you, well, you're probably cooking every day. You're probably having to make meals every day. You're having to make this decision every day. How could you make that easier for yourself? By deciding once and then not giving it a second thought. So one way she talks about this is you could have, a meal plan, but you could have these same meals for, maybe have 2 weeks. This is what I'm thinking of doing. Having 2 weeks of meals that you just put on rotation. And then as that gets easier, you can add more into it. But, have 2 weeks of meals that you can kind of memorize the recipes. And, Monday you have this meal, Tuesday you have that meal. You just don't have to think about it. When you're asked what's for dinner, it's really easy. It's the same thing as, 2 weeks ago. So you just kind of repeat that, and you can repeat them as much as you want. But anyways, that's just an example of how you can decide something once, and then you don't have to think about it anymore. Like, it's definitely, to me, like, exhausting to have to think of new meal ideas and then buy different ingredients. And I'm not saying I want to have like bland, like the same meal all the time. Like, I get really tired of food really easily, so I don't want to do that. But I think having a rotation every 2 weeks would probably be plenty to start with. Okay, so another thing is like clothing, for example. If you're working or not working and you're like looking in your closet, what in the world can I wear? I don't feel like I have anything to wear. And it just takes that thinking that you don't want to give it. If choosing what to wear is difficult, or just taking too much thought, then, you know, you could simplify that. You could just decide once, these are the outfits, lay them out on your bed. So, you know, basically create outfits that work together, that you love, using pieces from your closet that you are actually wearing and loving, because you probably have a lot more in your closet that you are not wearing and just taking up space and cluttering up your closet. So, you know, a way to not have to overthink what you're going to wear each day is to just, yeah, create those outfits and then get rid of everything else so that everything is an option for you. Everything in your closet is an option that you actually like. If clothing is not an issue, you know, you don't have to do it with that. But yeah, just think about the areas of your life that you spend a lot of time having to think about, but could be streamlined. So what areas of your life could you decide once about and then not have to really give it a second thought? So that's just one thing I've learned from this book that I really want to examine in my own life, the areas that I can do that in. So yeah, I do recommend giving this book a listen, if not even just for the first chapter. I don't know how the rest of the book is going to be, but so far so good. And then of course I recommended this book before in other videos, but this is an old one, like a very old one, but I always recommend, if you're feeling discouraged or you're having health issues, give this book a listen. I say a listen because you can find it for free on YouTube since it is old, but this book is How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. I'll link it below. I'll link the book and I'll link the YouTube video if you want to give it a listen for free. And yes, so I know a lot of the tips in this video or things that I'm doing are more on the lifestyle change of ways, not just like vitamins I'm taking. And that's just because I have kind of come to the place where I realize that my environment truly does affect my level of exhaustion as well as just overwhelmment. So yeah, this book really kind of puts things into perspective and talks about different people who were basically on their deathbed because of worry, because of just chronic worry and exhaustion and all of that kind of is tied together, and just how they were able to turn their lives around with some pretty simple lifestyle changes. Anyways, I said I didn't want to make this video long, and now I feel like it's already kind of long and rambly. I feel like I had good notes on it, and now I'm worried I just totally didn't do very good for you guys. But hopefully you found something in this that resonated with you, something to encourage you. But for me, I am focusing on my environment and how I can make it a more peaceful, inviting, and beautiful place to be. And so I truly think that minimalism could be worthwhile looking into, because even the little bit that I've done so far has had significant impact on just my mental well-being, just being able to walk into your room and feel a lot more at peace about it, because I have less things to take care of, so it's not going to take as much time to take care of my home. So before I ramble off more, that is all I'm going to say. I'm going to stop myself there, but I hope you all are doing well. Let me know in the comments if anything resonated with you, if you have any other advice of things you have found helpful, or you know, what vitamins, what supplements you're currently experimenting with, what answers you may or may not have found on your journey. I know each of us has a very personal journey when it comes to our chronic fatigue syndrome stories. So let me know below in the comments if you would like to see any other videos, if you want to hear my progress as far as the lifestyle changes are going. But either way, I will see you all very soon in my next video.